This research project was motivated by wanting to better understand the outcome of the biological control program for this plant, salt cedar or tamarix, that had been initiated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We suspected that the beetle that was introduced to control this plant would not kill the plant, but we wanted to know whether or not there would be benefits even without mortality of the plant. These benefits could potentially come about by the beetle simply eating enough of the plant and keeping it enough reduced that there might be water savings. So water savings is really an important issue in the western U.S. because water is a scarce resource, and this plant is purported to use quite a bit of water. So our motivation was to find out whether there would be a benefit for water savings even without mortality of the plants. Well, the outcome was that, in fact, we saw quite a benefit from the beetles in terms of water savings. So the beetles strip the plant as early in the growing season of the plant each summer. They attack again as the plant is regrowing new foliage, and they are so effective at reducing canopy area, which in turn reduces transpiration by the plant, which results in water savings in terms of the water being sucked from the ground through the plant to the atmosphere. So the results were pretty dramatic that in fact there was a water savings by the presence of the beetle in these ecosystems. Now, were we surprised? We suspected that there would be a benefit, but we did consider the alternative possibility that the regrowing foliage of the plant after defoliation would have very high transpiration rates and might result in no benefit. But in fact, we did not find that to be the case.
Well, anytime that a new agent or a new organism is introduced into the environment, there are always some risks that it may have unintended consequences. Now, to try to minimize the potential for unintended things like eating the wrong types of plants, we did over 10 years of testing to ensure that this is the only plant that this beetle would actually feed upon. Now, there are other interesting elements that could get tied into this. For instance, by defoliating a plant in the middle of the summer when it's getting hot out, it actually could potentially increase the risk of wildfire for a short period of time. You have all this brown foliage all over the landscape. But in fact, this plant, even when it's green, is a very highly flammable plant. So in fact, the elevation of wildfire risk is minor, though it is significant. However, over time, the long-range benefits are you're reducing that amount of flammable material and allowing then for space for native plants, which are less fire-prone, to follow up into place. Now, there's one other element that's sort of interesting in that there's an endangered bird that is using this plant for nesting in some areas of the country. And one of the concerns is that by defoliating tamarisk, you may actually lose habitat for endangered species. Now, we've seen an increase in diversity and abundance of birds at the same study site where we did the water use studies. And so we have a good feeling that this will actually enhance the value of the habitat, because what you actually have are the beetles are themselves food for the birds at the site. So there can be a range of benefits beyond just the water use. Indeed they are, because the plant actually occupies on the order of 1.5 million acres of landscape, and it can cover large areas of the landscape. It's very tolerant of a wide range of conditions. So by reducing its abundance, there really are very serious benefits to reducing water use, as well as basically reducing its presence and negative impacts to the system. Now, this is particularly important in the context of anticipated climate change, because our region is supposed to get both drier and warmer. And so there is potentially even greater demand for water in the future. So factors like controlling water using weeds can reduce those conflicts over water in the future.